Right now I'm in beast mode. On fire in my beast mode. Remember my nickname. I'm back in the game.
When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the WrestleChat Podcast with the Ant-Man.
All eyes are aimed at the city of brotherly love this week. Bags are packed and Philly cheesesteak stops are mapped out. We are officially ready for WrestleMania 40. Welcome to episode 51 of WrestleChat Podcast. I'm your host, the Ant-Man. We are live on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and YouTube. Excited to connect with you today. If you're on Instagram right now watching, you got the power to share this live. Just hit that button and spread the wrestling love. We certainly appreciate it. He is Michael Glavin, or as he's better known in the ring, the Glavalanche, although he's still yet to have set foot in a wrestling ring. MG, welcome back. Big week in wrestling, yeah?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's all coming to a head. It's all building to this one weekend. Man, like it was really over just this week that I really started to feel it in my gut that, man, WrestleMania is around the corner. It's that time of year, the greatest time of year. Screw Christmas, screw Thanksgiving. It's WrestleMania season, baby.
Wow. Screw Christmas. All right. that music really amped you up. The new intro really set Michael on fire, I guess. Let's dissect the electrifying confrontation between The Rock and Cody. It's not just about the hard-hitting action. There's a narrative unfolding that's as gripping as any Hollywood blockbuster, and we can't skip the intense dynamics between Punk, Seth, Drew, and also Jade is now turning blue. A whirlwind of excitement in the ring. I'm ready to jump in. I hope you guys are too. I mentioned we're doing this live right now. Remember, you're a part of our wrestling community's pulse. Drop your comments, your thoughts, or your fiery opinions, and we'll feature them live right here on the show. Your voice matters in the WrestleChat arena. Is the PG era over for WWE? It would appear so after the altercation between The Rock and Cody on Monday night. We've often wondered if we were headed this direction over the past couple of years, with rumors pointing to that way, to only have that rumor squashed. But when you have the final boss using the language that overloads the censors and showing Cody busted open, without turning the footage to black and white, it would appear that we're on the doorstep of a new unnamed era in WWE, one where any and all language could be airable. Commercials are moved from traditional breaks to the mat. Shout out to Prime. The segment with Rock and Cody started the show. It weaved throughout. They never let you forget that there was a conversation that started it all off, and it certainly ended in epic fashion. Michael, have you seen a Monday Night Raw any more well-crafted than what we consumed this past Monday?
I can tell you what, it's been years. Does it exist? Yeah. Does it exist in recent memory? No way. I mean, it's so interesting in the conversations that you and I have had this week over text during, the weekly segments of wrestling, whether it be Monday or Friday, where we point out tropes that we think are normal. And then we go, oh no, wait a minute, they're paying attention now. And to see, especially this week, and I know I'm not gonna get into any details because it's gonna come, but Monday and Friday, the attention to detail that is being paid attention to, crafting not just intentional threads throughout both shows, but also nodding to these stereotypical overdone tropes that have been done in the past. And, when we get around to SmackDown, I'll talk about one in specific that stuck out to me. But man, what an amazing show Monday night was, with just an explosive ending that I don't think anybody saw coming.
Yeah, agreed. And I want to do this here at the top because there's I want to kind of do this, get it out of the way, mention it. If you guys want to chime in, great. If you don't, let it roll, and we'll maybe bring it up later if it becomes an issue. Here's the only place that I have any kind of problem with any of this. The aggression, I absolutely love. The blood, used sparingly, and when the story calls for it, I don't have any issues at all. The language. This is where, as a father of young kids, it gets a little tricky, and here's why. And there's only really one part of it that gets really tricky. I know we don't hear what they say when they curse on the USA Network. They bleep it out, but the point is made too. They get the point across by bleeping the words out. You know what they mean. However, as a father of a young girl who thinks that she is the mini white version of Bianca Belair, shows up with dad at Raw wearing her Bianca t-shirt, hopped up on cotton candy and Coke, and here's no, not Dwayne Johnson or The Rock. Here's Frank Wolf from the Jungle Cruise, or Moana, drop 4 or 5 or 10 F-bombs, uncensored, on Cody Rhodes there in the arena, because you heard it all when you're in the arena. Without getting a warning, Dad's not going to be too happy if that were to happen. If we're headed into a 2024 version of the Attitude Era, let me be the first to say, I am all about it. That brought us the most memorable moments in all of pro wrestling, consistently. But if you're flipping the switch, could you just do me a favor? Tell us. So we as parents can be responsible with what we expose our children to at live events. MG, you got kids. How do you toe that line when you're not sure where the line is each and every week?
I think it's a great point. I sit more on the fence with it. Here's why. To your point, I think that, WWE has always been good on the TV side about saying, hey, we're at 7 o'clock Central right now. There's probably still some kids awake, whatever. When they roll over into that 9:30 Central time frame, there's mathematically, there's a good chance that anybody that is watching is probably of a slightly older, age. Live, exactly to your point, that gets a little tricky. I'm not going to say that, my kids are never exposed to language,
Correct.
whether it be from school or out in public. But when you're looking at your heroes,
yeah,
when you're looking at
or
your
me.
heroes,
Yeah.
and to your point, looking at Maui from Moana, and kids making that connection, it does create some difficult conversations to have that, it's trying to explain kayfabe to a kid that can't understand kayfabe.
Right.
Well, this
Right.
isn't really Maui. It is Maui, but it's not Maui, the whole type of thing. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily want my son, my son's 10 years old. I imagine in the next few years, he's going to start attending, arena shows with me. And I don't necessarily want him exposed to it either. The difficult part is when you're Dwayne Johnson and you sit on the board, what repercussions from who can actually exist? And so, I don't know. That's a tough one.
To be honest, the repercussions only come from us. And I'm not saying we need to, we're not going to stop watching. The only thing I ask is, again, just tell us.
Don't tell
guys,
them
just
we're
want
not
to
going to stop watching. The threat's got to be in place.
Well, the point, it's not even stop watching. The watching's not the problem. It's the going there live. And I don't want this to be the whole of this entire podcast or the bulk of it anyway. But if you wouldn't mind, just do us a favor. Hey, I want to let you know that we are moving a different direction. I'm not even talking about the live broadcast. Listen, I can edit that really quick, or I can censor that really quick. Hit mute, change the channel, whatever. You're right there. But if you're going to an event and man, she can't wait to see Bianca Belair, she can't wait to see Becky Lynch or whatever. But in that she gets this, and you didn't tell me, just tell me. I don't care. Hey, just want to let you know you're going to hear some stuff that you haven't heard a lot of in the past on at our live events. Great. And now, if you're fine with your kid, then that's your business. I know she's going to be exposed to it, obviously. And like I said, sometimes it's when somebody pulls out in traffic in front of me, if I'm just being real. But I get then to have that conversation with her. Dad let his emotions get the best of him, et cetera, et cetera. But with all that said, what an incredible way to craft a story on Raw, bringing it back here. Regardless of what goes down at WrestleMania 40, next weekend, I'm anxious to see Cody versus Rock one-on-one down the line. Possibly SummerSlam in Cleveland in August. I don't know, but we are jumping ahead. What's been done for so long in wrestling, both guys have a mic and take turns yelling one-liners at each other. Here, though, we had first a surprise appearance by The Rock. He wasn't advertised to be on this Raw. But once the shock of him even being there wore off, we see, The Rock doesn't have a mic. Well, that's weird. Why does The Rock not have a mic? He even shows his hands to Cody as though he's, hey, I come in peace. Listen, I'm not here to, I put my hands behind my back. I'm not going to hit you. But he leans in and he whispers something. And now, for the rest of the night, you got all of social media buzzing, wondering, what did The Rock say? People lip reading. Boy, did we find out what he said. After a run in from Solo and Jimmy on the Jay and Shin match, Cody and Seth came to the rescue. Cody and Jimmy battled the back. First, Solo tried to jump in, but the final boss got the final smackdown, leaving Cody bloodied in the loading dock in a scene reminiscent of a John Wick movie. Objectively, how could anyone not love how this played out, Michael?
I'll tell you what, it was cinema. It was nothing short of incredible. And to your point, the John Wick vibes there at the end of the show were just incredible. And we continue to see this beautiful evolution of this new Rock character that he's just a bad SOB. And man, he put on a great show, tying together all the things that he said. An appropriate street type of beating on Cody that didn't insult our intelligence by, I think there was one time that he slammed his head into a plastic table where I was like, it's a plastic table. But besides that, it was...
They still hurt, Michael. They still hurt.
It still hurt. But, they didn't go straight for the blood. They waited till the very end. Yeah. But then... we transitioned right into Rock gave us a little bonus content that nobody signed up for.
Well, and I'll tell you, a lot of that came from, I'm standing in the living room, family's all there. My oldest daughter came into town and for Easter weekend, and I'm sitting there just scrolling through Instagram reels or just through whatever. And I just hear somebody in the background say something, and then The Rock go, "No, that!" And I'll go, Stop. My wife just looks over at me. I'm like, I didn't go searching for Rock F-bombing people. It just happened. Don't get mad. We'd like for you to chime in and let us know your feelings on Cody Rock on Monday. Just drop a comment here and join in on the chat. Plus, don't forget, we're giving away either a Universal or World title to someone who subs to our YouTube. Now, once we reach 10,000, we're going to just do a drawing from everybody that's already subbed, and the winner gets to pick Roman's title. It's Roman's title right now, or Seth's title. It's Seth's title right now. Which one do you want? We'll order it straight from the WWE shop and have it sent directly to your home. It's not, it's not one of these hanging on the wall in the back and has my house dust on it. It'll be brand new, straight from the factory. Hit subscribe on our YouTube now to be in the running. We're not done with Raw just yet. That's how good this show was. We're going to be talking Punk, Drew, Seth here when we get back on the WrestleChat Podcast. Stay right here. Do you ever just want to sit back and talk movies, TV, and sports with your friends? Well, I've got something special for you. Check out the Man-Child Chronicles podcast, where four friends hang out and talk everything entertainment and sports. Come and join Ryan, John, Mike, and Jay for a new episode, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. The Man-Child Chronicles. Growing up never took so long. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here on the WrestleChat Podcast, live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. If all Monday Night Raw had to offer was that story with Cody and Rock, that would have easily satisfied everybody, I think. However, that wasn't all we got. By a long shot, Michael, we got an unscripted promo, at least it felt that way, from CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. I mean this with affection. Clunky in all the best ways. Comments that left Drew grinning into the camera with nothing to say because, he technically couldn't say anything with a reference to Vince. Genuine reaction of disgust from CM Punk after hearing Seth's music. All around an amazing promo from these guys that didn't involve 1 second of an altercation. Michael, why did you love this promo interaction so much? Because I know you did.
You said it. It was clunky in all the best of ways. Here's why. People can tell when something is real and when something is fabricated. And real is not always pretty, but real is always good. This promo between all of these guys shows how sharp they all are, shows how conversation, when not done from a group of writers, can carry weight inside of a segment on a TV show.
Yeah.
And to me, this feud and this ongoing feud and these potential feuds between this group of guys was, the stakes were raised even more by the shots that they were taking at each other.
Cool, yeah.
And not only that, but behind the kayfabe, you can tell that they were enjoying it because they were able to craft these sharp, pointy phrases and spit them out at each other. As you pointed out, when Drew got caught, CM Punk says, "Oh yeah, Drew, who said you were the chosen one?" Who's the one that, tell us the name of the person that said you were the chosen one.
Yeah.
And Drew knew that he got. And, there were several moments between all guys involved that they got one over on the other. It was just a beautiful display of not only trust in trusted talent, but also how good things can be when you let these talented people do what they're paid to do.
Yeah, and there was something I heard Bully Ray say about that moment, because even left guys in the business going, this seemed pretty real. And I wonder if anybody knew what anyone was going to say. And if, these are his words, not exactly, I'm spitballing here, but in just, it was about how you don't leave the other person. Their words are in their hand. And that's what he kind of felt that CM Punk did to Drew. But if they knew about it, that's not an issue. And I'll be honest though, as a viewer, neither one of us are in the business. We don't climb in a ring every week. I kind of liked that for Drew because it gave him an opportunity to sink or swim. If it truly was something he wasn't expecting, also knew that he couldn't say Vince McMahon's name on Raw, then he had to think of some way to get out of it. And doing that sharpens the tools in the tool chest. And if you have a way to get out of that, around it, use it for your advantage. If you don't, you look like a fool. I didn't think he looked like a fool at the end of that, because especially when everybody, I guess it was CM Punk that left the ring first, and Drew was like, "This isn't over. Just because you leave doesn't mean this whole thing's over. I've got stuff to say and stuff to do." And the fact that also the way Seth crossed paths without even looking at CM Punk there on the rampway too. Just there's so much to be. I'm glad. I was a little iffy of why they're continuing to pull CM Punk back into the story when the match at Mania is between Seth and Drew. But now we know why. And listen, I'll be honest, I'm really glad that they have, much like I am with Cody and Rock, although the match is really with Cody and Roman, because, and we'll touch on this later, on SmackDown stuff later, but on SmackDown, they've started to make sense of the things that most of the time are just left hanging. Why would The Rock attack Cody? We kind of know why, but it also pulls it back to Roman when the wise man says, "Do you know why he attacked him? Because it was an order from the head of the table." This is like, oh, you're connecting dots. We're so used to not having to connect stuff ourselves in our head, or go rewatch old episodes and see where stuff ties together. There were many things in the promos too that if you didn't know what like CM Punk was talking about, it went right over your head. And to be honest, most of it did with me. He said that he didn't listen to Pat McAfee's show. He's more of the drive-through type. That was a reference to, why did I just lose his name? I just lost his name. Cornette. It was the Cornette's podcast because he does it anyway. It was just cool how he was throwing little nuggets out there, gave a little hint that maybe more things could be said if they were already on Netflix. And I think it just kind of gave us a little prelude of things to come.
And the other thing that we're just not used to is long-term storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about when you get into a real-life beef with somebody, normally somebody else is involved along with you, whether it's your best friend or their best friend, or it's rarely just a 1v1 type scenario. And what we're not used to seeing from WWE is multiple people in this feud pot at the same time. But if you really look at it, it's highly likely we're going to get Cody Rock at SummerSlam. You know, it's highly likely that CM Punk is probably going to have more matches with Seth and matches with Drew and whoever's got the title. And, you know, we're crafting a universe where everything is not linear. And we talked about that within the last couple of weeks. This is what real life is like. And real life and kayfabe has merged into one, and we're all better off for it. So hats off to everybody on the WWE side for giving us things to look forward to without eclipsing what we're waiting on now.
Yeah, so true. Your thoughts on Punk, Drew, Seth from Monday. Chime in, drop a comment. We'll share it and discuss here on WrestleChat Live. Thank you for joining us on YouTube or X or Facebook or even on Instagram. We love that you're here. I'm going to touch on a few things that we haven't mentioned about Raw so far and why it was the best Raw that we've seen in so many years. Rock makes a surprise appearance. Crowd is high. Many times WWE would have put a non-thinker match, one that doesn't really have any consequences, but no, they put Ricochet and JD McDonough. This is an incredible match, and that's not typically where they put a match like that. This kept the crowd up, all while still, whispering about what The Rock might have whispered to Cody. And then we got the Punk, Seth, Drew confrontation, or the conversation, as it would be. Crowd super engaged. Then they continue this story with Maxine Dupree, which is actually, you talk about being real. Man, you hear from the other ladies back in the locker room. They love Maxine in real life and are just so impressed that she's learning on the job in front of the world. And people attacking her, well, now they're using that as a storyline. Interesting how much real they're pulling into that. Tag match with DIY, Andrade match, on and on and on, then ending it as hot as it started. Michael, what am I missing that helped make this the best Raw in years? Was there something else in your mind?
I think it's just the intentionality of how they book their shows. There's a lot of conversation on the internet right now about some organizations not really being able to structure TV well. And what WWE over the last 6-8 months has been successfully able to do is take us on an emotional ride and knowing when we need that break and when we don't. And when you invest an equal amount of effort into your entire roster, this is the outcome of paying equal attention to everybody. Yes, your titles are important. Yes, your upper mid card is important. But what's also important is the female superstars of tomorrow, like Maxine Dupree, that is learning on the job. That, has had rough matches in front of us, but continues to handle it with grace, respect, and maturity. This is what professional intentionality looks like, is giving us a front to back show that doesn't insult our intelligence, that doesn't bore us and want us to change the channel. The whole thing front to back, just incredible. And don't even get me started. We'll probably talk about this more when we get around to SmackDown. But what we've seen transformatively in the tag division and then subsequently with factions is just off the charts awesome. So, long way to answer your question. To see what's happening in the tag division right now and then subsequently factions, we have some of the best factions going on right now since I would argue D-Generation X first version, Nation of Domination, all the way back then. We have some of the best things happening since then.
Not the current DX. The DIY DX.
Those guys are cool. DIY is great, but
it's funny though,
but
that,
not modern DX. No.
Yeah, got it. Okay. John Michael is watching from Australia on Instagram. John Michael, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it. What time is it there? What time is it in Australia right now? I'm not going to try to factor that. Maybe it's the exact same time. It's just another day. Let's add another day to it. Chime in. What was it about Monday that made it so good to you? We'll share your comments and discuss here on the show. Listen, it appears that some late night tweets from Tony Khan are back. I'll share that and we'll discuss when we get back here. You're already shaking your head on the WrestleChat Podcast. Hang on, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. We're going to be live from WrestleMania next week, but even before the podcast, we're going to be all over WW events next week. So be sure to follow us on Instagram at WrestleChat Podcast. Set that notifications to on, and you'll never know when we're going to be going live, and you'll never know who's going to be on the other end with us. Lots of surprises planned. Looking forward to that. Even some surprises to us that we don't even know about yet, but we're excited to share that with you because this is what it's all about, hanging with you guys each and every weekend or when the occasion calls for it. Speaking of social media, Twitter is, it's getting Tony Khan in some hot water again. So John Alba tweeted that Strictly Business with he and Eric Bischoff was going away. And Eric kind of explained the reason why was that Eric's travel over the next 2 or 3 months is erratic. John is a very, very busy man, and it was a challenge to do that and schedule that, especially when they wanted to have guests on each and every time. And John announced that this next episode would be their last. And here's how Tony responded. Sunsetting this fraud of a business podcast before the next AEW media deal is a wise choice. To which Eric Bischoff responded with a brand new YouTube of him doing a podcast solo called Wise Choices. It's really just him answering questions, but I love it. And it's just him at the opportunity that he has to jump on and go on YouTube. Michael, is it time for Eric and Tony to have a reality show, or is it time for someone to change Tony's Twitter password?
Definitely the latter. Okay. Okay. Bear with me. It is a bold strategy to start poking at somebody like Eric Bischoff. Yes, was he at the helm as WCW went under? Yes. But Eric Bischoff is also the only person in all of history that can say they got one over on Vince McMahon for over a year. WCW murdered WWF at the time in ratings. And Eric Bischoff is no scrub. Eric Bischoff is a very, very smart businessman. And if anything, it should be the fact that Eric was in charge of a company that went under is still a reason why you should listen to him. Because either he's a case study of what you should do or what you should not do. And in his case, he's both. He'll tell you, don't give inflated contracts with guarantees to superstars because it'll come back to bite you in the butt.
What do we have?
Tony wants to, to go biblical on it, wants to complain about the speck in Eric Bischoff's eye while Tony's got a plank in his, because what Tony does not realize is he is following the exact same trajectory of WCW. Here within the last few months, I mentioned that when we were talking about AEW, probably the last time we did, that in the year 2023, AEW lost something upwards of $50 million in financial losses versus their income. That's the same thing that was happening to WCW. WCW's last full year was a loss of $60 million. And the fact that also Eric Bischoff came to WWE and had such an incredible run, not only creatively, but as an on-screen character, as a general manager. This is a guy that you want to listen to. And I apologize for, using some pointed language, but Tony is just acting like a petulant child when it comes to somebody like Eric Bischoff. And I'm not saying that Eric Bischoff is the end-all be-all, but boy, you're taking a dump on a significant amount of industry wisdom and experience. Bingo. And then when you literally just say on Twitter, hey, I'm glad this show is shutting down because they're critical of me, and now the critical things they're going to say will allow me to get a better TV deal. What does that say about you? Take it from me before I say more stupid stuff.
I wonder what people at Warner Brothers Discovery think about Tony's tweets. And that, by the way, that also happened at like 3:50 in the morning. Man, Jade Cargill's appearance on SmackDown was more than just a planned promo. It was a statement. Her alliance with Bianca and Naomi at the end of the show is a game changer. This new team is poised to wreak havoc in the best possible way. I love the promo at the beginning felt really stiff. Here's some lines, go read these. And I'm like, oh, is that all we're getting really from Jade? Her first appearance on SmackDown, that's it? And what are you wearing? And then you come back at the end of the show and she gets in and does what she does best in the ring, now with some credible training. Man, how'd you feel about this, Michael?
Holy cow, man.
Yeah.
One word.
Yep.
Presentation. WWE nailed this, okay? She comes in, they announce her signing, big deal, great. Now, we're going to put you off to the side for a little while. It feels weird. Trust us. Created anticipation, and there were some very subtle things in her two appearances on SmackDown that I have to point out. First of all, there might be an echo in here. What was she wearing? That's neither here nor there. But she came out, a little stiff. It was planned, definitely rehearsed. Yep. That's fine. I didn't hate it. It was still delivered well. I wasn't mad about it. I knew there had to be more, though. I would say the single most pivotal moment was when she came back out the second time. And here's why. People are getting beat up in the ring. Music hits. She comes out. Whoever instructed her on this moment is an absolute genius because she walks out and she takes her time. Her walk to the ring is both intentional, it is calculated, and it conveys the message of who she is, which is, I don't need to run in there because whether I run, walk, jog, or am carried to the ring, the outcome when I get there is the same. And that's, I'm going to clear all of you out. I'm going to beat you guys up, and I'm going to end what you guys have started. Her confidence, her look, her attitude has made her a superstar after last night. As great as she was before, WWE has capitalized on everything that she is, and we have just a massive talent for the next decade that has arrived in the WWE.
Did you see Mercedes Moné and her when she came into AEW just a couple of weeks ago?
I watched it afterwards, if that tells you anything.
So she came out at the beginning. She did her thing at the beginning. Then she came out and got into action at the end. A lot of people critical of what happened in that. I feel almost like this was an answer of like, hey, hang on, we're going to show you how to do it real quick. With a superstar that's not as big as Mercedes Moné. Whether if it had a parallel or it didn't, it was just kind of interesting to see something that was very similar but done so much better. It's really what it, not WWE shills, but I mean, you see it and you go, oh, okay, well, there's the difference. Look at how they did this. But also, it was kind of reminiscent. And I even tweeted or text you during the show and it was like Bobby Heenan, but which side is she on?
Yep.
And that's what she comes out slow like that. Who's she coming out to side with? Is she a new member of Damage Control, or is she, because they kicked somebody out, they kicked Bailey out. Do they have a new one with Jade, or is she going to team up with Bianca and Naomi? We got the answer there on that one. It's WrestleMania week, y'all. Let's go. If you're going to be there, let's connect. DM us on Instagram. We'd love to see you. If you're not going, make sure you're following us. We're going to take you wherever we go at WrestleChat Podcast on Instagram. Maybe even to lunch. Just take you to lunch with us sometime. This show will be live from Philly next week with a full list of predictions. More importantly, we want to get yours. So join us next weekend when we go live and join in on the chat here on the WrestleChat Podcast. Did I miss anything, Michael? I know there's plenty that we could continue talking about. Anything that we need to hit, it was massive.
This could be an all-day show if we wanted it to be, but I think we hit the highlights. But all that to say, just super stoked about this Mania. It's going to be the biggest ever, greatest WrestleMania of all time, or at least to date.
We thank you guys for hanging out. For Michael Glavin, I'm the Ant-Man, and we'll see you next week here on the WrestleChat Podcast.